They tried to knock you out. They tried to kick you where it hurts. You got up. You kept going. That was in there.
I think they know the writing's on the wall. Maguire, Senior, back to Maguire. Gary Maguire for Leeds. The young hero to win the grand final again.
Hello and welcome to the Lot Pod, brought to you by ACD&B, who are a branding and creative design studio based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands, so if any companies out there need a brand new logo or a brand refresh, just get in touch with ACD&B. Thank you for them, as always, for sponsoring the podcast and helping us designing with the issue of the Lot 17A fanzine. That is still available on the Lot Pod store, so be sure to check that out. This is the match review panel for the Challenge Cup loss to Wigan. There is no sounds of the game this week, I'm afraid, so we'll go straight into our guests. We have Sam. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having us back on.
And we have Cameron. How are you, Cameron?
Pretty good, thanks, mate. Well, except for the result.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a double whammy for Leeds sports in the last 24 hours, but we're not going to talk about those idiots in London today. In true Lot Pod fashion, we start with the positives. Cameron, have you got any positives that you can take from the game yesterday?
We actually started a game relatively well. I will caveat that by saying for spells in the first half, I don't think we were good enough. But there were other spells in that first half where I thought we more than matched Wigan, which I think only to turn a positive into a negative. I think that sometimes winds me up even more because we've shown a lot this season and we can compete with the top teams and then we sometimes throw it away.
Sam, what positives have you got?
Yeah, well, the first half performance was on my list as well. You know, we've been asking for long enough to have a first half performance, so we got to point it out when it happens. But unfortunately, it just, you know, the bad performance came in the second half this time, which is annoying. But, you know, got to point it out. Tom Holroyd, I thought was really good.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, he played well. And Saturday afternoon rugby as well. It's great, isn't it?
That's the first thing I got written down, actually, as my positives was sunny Saturday afternoon rugby. Like I get much more excited for or much more enjoyment out of a Saturday afternoon kickoff when the weather is like that. Admittedly, as I was saying to you, Sam, before we came on air, probably enjoyed it a little bit too much. I've done that now with 2 Saturday afternoon kickoffs now. I've just about got over the hangover from this morning. But yeah, the sunny weather I got down. I put Cam down as a positive. Holroyd I thought was brilliant. And then it's a bit of a positive I don't really want to mention, but I think it deserves shouting out, which was the turn up from Wigan. Because they brought a lot of people over, creating a good atmosphere in which the South Stand was feeling pretty empty.
It was surprisingly quiet yesterday. I was surprised that, you know, I thought, as we've said, the weather and it being a Saturday afternoon where you can do what you want afterwards, I thought it'd be, you know, attracting a lot of people, but I had quite a lot of space in the South Stand and I couldn't believe it because it's been pretty busy all year, hasn't it?
It has been, and I normally have to get to the stand about half an hour, 40 minutes before the game to get my usual spot. I could have walked up at minute 1 and still got my usual spot yesterday. So let's go into the game then. Let's talk about that first half, because the first thing I want to talk about is Tom Holroyd in an old style gut-busting run from a prop with determination to get over the line. I thought his try was absolutely excellent. What did you think of Cameron? Holroyd, Cameron?
I thought I wholeheartedly agree. In fact, to be fair, I think the pack itself started really well. I turned to somebody after 11 minutes when I thought we were really on top and said, this is the best 11 minutes Mikolaj Alecki's played all season, because I've said on the podcast before that I feel like he's taken some time to really get into the groove since his return from injury, which is to be expected. And I was impressed with how he started. I've just been impressed with Holroyd all season, though, to be honest. He's having an outstanding campaign, and I think that number 10 shirt should be his this time next year, absolutely. And that's a massive positive for the club moving forward. I mean, obviously, a lot of talk about Sam Walters leaving, but we shouldn't forget what we do have in Tom Holroyd, who basically looks like, he's not the finished article, obviously, but he's a guy who can start a prop every week now for basically the next 10 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah, he is a starting prop, but I love that run. I love that try. You know, you think he took it, 10 meters out. 3 people on him. One of them is a prop. I think it was Ethan Havard, or someone. But that determination to get over the line. What did you make of it, Sam?
Yeah, he's just, I mean, I'm so glad we were patient with him because he had his injury problems and he had the long ban and
just a small disciplinary issue last year of punching about 15 players.
Yeah, but I remember looking into it last year and, you know, his appearances since he's made his debut. And I thought, is this just going to be one of those that doesn't materialise into, you know, what it could be? And luckily this year he seems to have matured and he's performing so well. And that, as you say, that try, the determination to get to the line is just, you know, that's what we've been wanting from props for a good few years, just that pure aggression and strength, just to say, I don't care who's in my way, I'm getting to that line, I'm getting past these players. And, you know, if he can carry on doing that, we're going to have a seriously good player on his hands.
He seems to be doing more and more, doesn't he? Those kind of runs where he just shrugs people off like they're not there. And I think with Aledzki, he's a kind of player who can do really long minutes for you. So to have someone who's a bit more of a wrecking ball. I mean, Aledzki can do that, but like just this ball of energy that Holroyd has become, that's great. But one thing I will say is I was a bit confused with how we managed the minutes in the middle yesterday. Holroyd and Aledzki started really well, then they went off and seemed to be off for a very long time, and a very, very long time. And then Holroyd comes back on and then gets taken off towards the end, and Aledzki's replacing it. I just didn't really... I was surprised with how we managed those middle units yesterday. I don't know what you two thought about that.
Yeah, Aledzki didn't seem to have many minutes, did he?
No, that's what I was. Our best period of the game seemed to be when they were on the field, and they went on the field for as long as they probably should have been. And these two guys, I expect, especially Aledzki, I expect big minutes from. So I was a bit flummoxed by the substitution plan down the middle there.
Yeah, there was one stage in the game yesterday where I was thinking, I really don't like it when Lasoni and Sangare are on the pitch at the same time. It's not because I don't like either of those players. It's because together, I think they've got similar roles within the team, and neither of them, you know, do those minutes and can bring what Holroyd or Aledzki do. And I just think that's when if we've got momentum, that's when we lose it sometimes. When, you know, they tire and teams just take advantage of it. And, you know, I'm not certain, but I feel like they might have been on the pitch at the start of the second half together.
I can't remember because 33 seconds into that second half, we were losing or we were conceding a try. So I was more fuming the fact we conceded a try in 33 seconds. Can you guys put your finger on the pulse in terms of why we started so well in the first half when we haven't previously? What do you think was a difference with how we started that game versus previous ones?
Maybe there was a bit of confidence from last week that we knew we could score points on them. But I mean, there's been many people who've pointed out we're a dry weather team, so that could have helped. You know, everything was going for us, that we had the confidence. Weather was good at Headingley, and you know, as you say, it started well, and I'm just disappointed they didn't, you know, realise what we're doing is working and just continued it. I know it's not as easy as that against Wigan, but it was there for him to win. And you know, I can't really work out why they haven't gone on to win from the position they're in.
Well, conceding that try just before half-time wouldn't help, but we'll get there next, because obviously the next things that happened was, did we get out of jail? There was 2 forward passes. I mean, they were both about a mile forward in both of those, so that might have been a get out of jail card. And then we get the Harry Newman try, which was great to see Caesar taking on the line. It was great support, a bit of a juggle with Newman. Then Newman gets lucky, in my opinion, in that ball in the first time should have been given. I think he had Martin on his left and Newman on his... Myler on his right. He got lucky in that scenario. When obviously we're going to talk about later, he didn't get lucky twice. What did you think of that try? It was nice to see Caesar sort of taking the line. What do you think, Cameron?
It was. I mean, Caesar's at his best when he does that. I mean, I've said it multiple times that Austin and Caesar. I mean, Austin's still a very good running halfback, but oddly, I think we all thought that Caesar was always going to be like the better organizer and the better kicker of the two, when actually it's Austin who strikes me as the better kicker in terms of certainly kicking from deep. To be fair to Caesar, I thought he kicked quite well in the first half, but I think that speaks to the overall problem with the performance, and something Sam alluded to already. Insofar as in the first half, I thought we played the game the way that we wanted to play the game, you know, quick rucks, and we were rolling downfield and kicking on the front foot. In the second half, we just let Wigan play the game the way that they wanted to, as in they were putting us in corners, and I just thought we were struggling to get out of those corners. I know Rowan said after the game that he was frustrated by the ruck speed and the lack of six agains, and I can understand
that every week though.
Well, he does. This is, but it is flummoxing. Like we're clearly a team, perhaps the team that thrives the best off quick rucks, and the game is supposed to generate those quick rucks with the rules. And to see them
more though, because I never see them trying to get off the feet quick enough. Like at least force the referee into a decision by trying to get up. Like I know it can come down to the referee and how it's being managed, but I also think it comes down to wanting to get up and play that ball quicker, and I don't always see that.
Well, I think that was part of the problem yesterday for me. We probably missed Austin quite a bit, but I also feel like we missed Ash Handley, because certainly when we were losing, we needed to try late on, and we were coming from deep. I was feeling like, where's the speed being generated from early in the set? You know, I always feel like Handley wins his contact, gets down, quick play the ball, and that can spark something. I just didn't see that yesterday. Everything just seemed so slow when we needed it to be fast. Because we're a team that when we get on the roll and we are playing fast, we're very difficult to stop. But the reason why we only had one break, and we've already alluded to the possible mistake that Newman makes, but there wasn't any other break coming, in my opinion, because we were just so slow in that ruck area.
Yeah, I agree. So let's deal with the elephant in the room then. Let's open this can of worms, because we talked about Newman probably getting lucky in that instance. I've watched the highlights again, and the first French try, he seems to get bumped off quite easily by Bevan French. Does Newman, you could put him, at fault for that try. The second try, he looks at, I think it's French's second. Oh no, it's Wardle's try. He does look a bit out of position. He's looking at the ball carrier as opposed to looking at his man that's opposite him. And then he does what created probably the biggest groan of the game, and you can hear it in the highlights when he doesn't make that pass inside to Myler. Now, I want to caveat this in saying that I still think that Harry Newman is one of the best players in Super League.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there is any other player in that Leeds Rhino squad that could have produced that break that Harry Newman did. So we wouldn't even be in that situation without Harry Newman for the player that he is. But he has to make that pass, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Pretty thick. Go on, Sam. What you go into it first? He has to make that pass.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people defending him saying Myler's overrun him, but I don't think he did overrun him. I think in the first half, he was there for the pass, and you could tell he was a bit annoyed that he didn't get it that time. And if Newman's smart about it, because this isn't the first time Myler's actually screamed and shouted at Newman. I think if Newman's smart about it, he just makes the pass, because it's it just seems the obvious thing to do. If you've got away with it once, learn from it and just pass the ball. Because
that I think worries me is the naivety of not learning the fact that you got away with it the first time round. Yeah. And even if Myler is forward ahead of him, you still make the pass. And if Myler is ahead of him, then the reason why we don't score goes elsewhere, doesn't it? But he just has to make that. Yeah, I mean, the naivety of not learning from the first mistake is probably what annoys me most about it.
My worry with it is as I've just said, Myler's had problems with him before, and twice in this game he's not passed to him. At some point, players are going to stop supporting him because they know they're not going to get the ball. And if that happens, then we are in trouble, because Newman's the only one who's going to make the break. But if he can't finish it off, we're not getting any points at all.
And Myler is one of the best people at doing those supporting lines, left, right, and centre. Yeah. It's where he gets most of his tries for us. Yeah. Cam, what was your assessment of that incident or that?
I mean, I can understand. I mean, again, going back on what Sam said, I can understand why some people think Myler might be in front because it's full speed and it is kind of close. But I've seen a few freeze frames on social media, and it's very clear that Myler's about a step behind. So it's almost perfect. You just tee that up, put the pass in front of Myler, and it should be smooth sailing. I'll also say that I'm not 100% sure Myler scores, because there are a lot of Wigan players flooding back, and I know Myler's not as quick as he probably once was. But that's your best bet of scoring a try. As well, I think you mentioned not learning from the earlier instance in the game. It's not like he actually properly fooled Bevan French with that dummy in the first half. Like, French still stuck to him. It's just Newman really did get lucky insofar as French just could not execute the tackle because he'd lost his feet. That wasn't going to happen a second. You literally have got lucky. You've not fooled him there. He read your play. He just wasn't able to stop it. So just lay on the pass. Just lay on the pass and see what happens. What matters? If you pass it and French tackles Myler, you're Harry Newman. Quick play of the ball, pick it up and run at the next defence. That's kind of what I'd be thinking, because I think about what his brothers said on Facebook, going, "Oh, he's seen French move towards Myler." Well, Myler gets tackled. You're in support then. See what happens. Just make the pass, because he's in more space than you are.
Yeah, it is weird that his family always are on that Facebook group talking about him. I do find that a bit strange personally, but I think does Myler score it? I don't know. I think regardless, the pass has to be made. I think French also does deserve some credit, because I think he goes through it, and I don't know if you watched the game on BBC again, but he goes through that tackle afterwards, and he talks about how he dipped his head in a certain way to obviously try force Newman into making the wrong decision. So I think French does deserve some credit in part of that. As well, but you could feel the groan in the ground, and I do wonder if people's narratives might change on Newman now, or opinion might change on Newman.
I think they have been for a while. When he's been out injured, everybody missed him and everybody wanted him back. But I think we all knew that he had that in him, where he's a bit petulant, he's a bit hot-headed. We all know how good he is. But because of how good he is, he wants those moments where he's the guy. And I think there's been a few examples of that since he's been back in the team. And you can forgive it the first few times because he wants to make an impact, and he wants to remind people of how good he is. But when it starts impacting results like it did yesterday, and it's clearly spilling over into the team as well, because there was the fight with Holroyd the other week. As I've said, Myler has shouted and screamed at him on the pitch before. Blake Austin's done the same. If it's now impacting team morale and their attitude towards him, and with the fans as well, obviously it's something that needs addressing pretty quick.
To me, it speaks to a wider problem within this team, insofar as I think it's great. It's a great quality team. Well, obviously there's areas to address, but there is quality in this team, lots of young quality as well, because that's what I mean. I don't want people going, "Oh, we're 8th in the league," and I'm saying we're a quality team. But to me, if Harry Newman's in a squad with someone like Kevin Sinfield or Jamie Peacock, Harry Newman absolutely passes that ball because of the leadership and the culture within the squad. To me, and we've alluded to this before when Reece, you've spoken about like the lack of captain in the team. To me, that doesn't help situations like this. The argument when Austin and Newman have had a go at each other, and Myler and Newman have had a go at each other. To me, when you've got leaders, proper leaders who are established leaders in a dressing room, you can kind of control that. And it's easier for Harry to learn from this mistake. When there isn't that sort of proper leadership within a team, I feel like it's harder for these younger players. Like they've kind of got to do it on their own, like they're learning on the job. And it's harder to really get that culture of support. Like, let's not have a go at each other. Let's not blame each other. Let's just dust it down and move on. So that's my sort of, one of my takeaways from it is we really do need someone to really start to stand out and be a proper leader in this squad. Cam Smith's maybe the obvious one. Maybe we should be. I mean, I don't think Rowan will give a captaincy out, but maybe he needs to start rethinking that, so someone can really grab this whole situation by the scruff of the neck. Harry is young; he still has time to learn from this. He's only 23. And
he will learn from that. I almost guarantee the next time he's in that situation, he will be making that pass. More because he just doesn't want to, the fear of what people have said online and everything else. But I'm pretty much certain if he's in that opportunity again, he'll make the pass. As he runs through it in his head, he probably will know himself, I should have made that pass.
You could tell from watching him after it happened yesterday, even before full time, that's all he was thinking about. That's
because he cares. He cares, though. Let's put that down to the fact he cares for the shirt. He always tries 100%. He knew he made a mistake.
His head were down, he was dragging his feet pretty much, and he looked gutted. But I just hope that's because he knows he's made the wrong choice and not because things haven't gone his way. I hope that's not him throwing a paddy in a sense. But
I don't think it was. I think it was more that he knew what he'd done in terms of making a mistake.
I will say this. I'd fear if I was St. Helens, because I feel like this might not happen. But it's very possible that we get a very, very good Harry Newman performance on Friday, because he is that determined to make amends, and he could be unstoppable. Alternatively, it could go the other way and he could try too hard. I mean, that can happen, and then it can go wrong. But I expect a response from him. He's that kind of player, and I feel like we could see a very good performance from him against St. Helens.
Just the only thing I'd like to touch on now in this was that before the game, Jamie Peacock did say before the match, he needs to mature. He needs to learn some humility. You're mentioning there, Cameron, about the captain. I would imagine someone like GP going after that first instance, going, well done, you scored the try, but your next time, just pass it. And that's exactly what you're saying. Paul's asked in the chat, do you think that maybe Rowan has someone he's bringing in for next season will be captain? Could that be why he's not selected? I don't know what you think on that, Cameron.
I don't think so. I mean, I know Rowan has said that there is already some recruitment done, but name me a player that's available that Leeds have been linked with that should come in and be instantly captain of this club. There isn't.
What I can say is that I'm really happy that Mason Lino is not coming, because Eddie can now stop saying that we're going to sign him and talking about him because he signed a new 3-year deal at Wakefield, which I also can't quite believe. I don't know why people are signing deals at Wakefield at the moment, but there is no one of that caliber. And plus, for me, there is captain in that team, and it is probably Cam Smith. But I think
talking about the Crew situation. This is kind of what I was talking about yesterday, actually, with the leaving stuff. I think at the start of the season, it was just a really difficult situation with the captaincy selection. He might have never been doing one, but Leeming clearly wasn't his first choice, but he was still around. So if he's staying, appointing another captain probably isn't the best thing to do anyway. But then he's also said that there's nobody who really stood out as a proper leader. So what is the point of appointing one if you don't see one? But another thing I was talking about yesterday is, I think he's using this season as an opportunity to work out who the leaders are. And I think he might actually appoint a captain for next year. And I think it will be one of Smith and Hanley. And, probably Smith I'd go with as well. But I do think it's something that it's just one of those things that has put pressure on Rowan Smith. And it was a needless thing, really. That's of his own doing. Because, teams have a captain, and he didn't need to reinvent the wheel with this. He just appoint a captain and nobody will say anything about it. So I think from next year, he'll probably rethink this, just having a leadership group and choose somebody who is the captain. And then that's just something off his shoulders.
Well, that's the same thing we talk about Harry, isn't it? It's about learning from your mistakes, isn't it? And if he learns from it, it's not worked, then he changes it. So it's the same thing. The one last thing I will say on Newman is that, and Dan Foster's put it in the comments, some people reactions to Harry have been embarrassing and fickle. I would never want a Leeds Rhinos player in a situation that people like Patrick Bamford and on the other code. So I, on this podcast, does not endorse any abuse towards Harry as a result of the mistake that he made on Saturday. He will learn from it, and he will become a better player for it. It doesn't mean we can't critique players, but just do it properly, please, if you are ever going to do that. What other players stood out for you? I put Cam. I thought Cam probably played one of the better games he's had recently. I thought he's been probably off form, but Cameron, did you think that Cameron Smith played better?
Yeah, I thought he was really good, especially in the first half, but overall just really good. I thought he looked particularly dangerous in that first half because we threw some good shape at Wigan, and when we're throwing good shape at teams, it gives him the freedom to. There's all these players on his outside. He could run with it. I mean, he made that break just before the Holroyd try. I think we ended up getting a couple of penalties and then we score. But he's the one who puts us down, takes us downfield in the first place. Interestingly, he didn't pass to Morgan Gannon, which I find quite amusing. But yeah, I was very impressed with him. I think he's having overall a good season. I think you're right. He has had a slight dip recently, but he seems to be coming out of that again. And he's just a very good player to watch. And when he plays well, our attack tends to play well. And he gets through loads of work as well. We should say that, especially defensively. I mean, he's top tackler, isn't he? So,
Sam, any other players stand out for you?
I liked what Jared did when he was on the pitch. I thought we missed him when he went off. James McDonnell were good, in his first game back from a couple of weeks out. I thought he were, strong and steady as he usually is, but I don't think anyone beyond that really did too much.
I agree with Jared. I thought he did stand out, especially in the first half, and it just didn't work bringing Corey on.
It
was strange timing when they did that as well.
I thought O'Connor was the reason why we were quicker in that first half. I thought he was bringing that ruck speed. I saw him running from dummy half a lot more. Now, I haven't got the stats because it's the Challenge Cup and we don't have them, but I feel like he did run more from dummy half than I've seen previously, so at least he was taking things quicker. So I wonder if that was part of the reason why we were playing better in the first half and that we started best. In true fashion of me being hungover, and I actually haven't even followed my own order that I wrote down to go through the pod today. So we jumped straight into the first half. We forgot to talk about the lineup. Now, the lineup was interesting, so we're going to talk in a really weird order. We've done the first half, we're going to get to the lineup, and then we'll go to the second half. The lineup obviously was really interesting. Hanley was out with illness, which meant that Milo also, obviously, and then obviously Austin was out with an injury as well. So it meant that we had Morgan Gannon at halfback, an experiment I thought I would never see in a real game. Sam, did the experiment pay off?
I don't think he did badly. I didn't notice him in the game. That's what I would say. He just did what he had to do, I think. I can't criticise him because it's his first game in a competitive match in that position, and he's just come back from injury himself, and it's not his natural position. So I'm not going to criticise him, but I also don't think it was, he didn't do anything to show us that long term he's going to be a 6. But at the same time, he was fine.
I thought defensively it meant that we had another sort of big forward sort of in defence, and I thought that might have helped us against Wigan's pack. But Cameron, did the experiment pay off to you? Do you want to see that experiment again?
Based on that, I would probably say no. But I don't think he really played like a 6. I don't know if that was the plan. He was a good ball runner in the first half. I thought that worked when we were on top, but it sort of meant that we were playing literally with an half-back and a full-back because, like I said, I just don't think he was playing like a 6 players. And interestingly enough, you mentioned defence. I actually thought he was defending on the right-hand side, and I thought we looked so loose down the right edge all game. I'm not saying that's his fault, but it's just interesting because I agree with you that he maybe should. I'd expect him to make us more defensively solid, and in fact, his side seemed quite loose indeed. I think a lot of the changes that we had to make didn't work. It's interesting to say this, given that he wears the number 4 shirt and he was signed as a centre, but I think yesterday showed that Nenny McDonald is far better on the wing. I think he got caught out a couple of times defensively, and he just almost didn't seem involved as much as he is when he's on the wing. I don't know. And then, interestingly enough, I also think Reece Martin didn't feel as involved as he does when he plays at centre. I almost didn't notice Reece. I think the first time I noticed him was like in 25 minutes. I was like, oh yeah, Reece is playing.
Yeah, it was a quiet game for Reece. And I think obviously as well, Rowan was restricted by the squad he named. Like, I couldn't for the life of me remember if Luke Cooley was still on loan at Batley or not. But obviously if Luke Cooley's in that squad, would you not have Luke Cooley at full back and then move Myler into the half of Caesar?
It's an interesting one. He is on loan, I think, still, but he wasn't allowed to play in the cup because he would be cup tied.
Oh, he's been cup tied, sorry, of course. And then obviously the other change was that Alforts came back for his first game. I thought he carried well out from the back, which he always tends to do. Although I still found myself shouting forward every time he got the ball, because him and Liam Tyndall together are the most crabby wingers I've ever seen. They're practically swapping wings on every single time they get the ball when they're carrying out for the back. Just run looking forward. But what did you think of Olfus? Obviously, he did make that mistake, Sam. But that aside, did he have a good game?
It's funny you ask it to me like that, because the only thing I noticed him do was drop that ball, because he does it every game. He does it every time he plays. Yeah, if you say he made decent meters, I'll believe you. But yeah, I just don't rate him. I just don't see what he offers.
Cameron, what do you think? I mean, last year I think he was 5th in meters in the league. I think he had the most tackle breaks. Are those stats just an anomaly? Do you not think they're a fair reflection? Because is there a good player in there? I mean, obviously, for the games he's had with Leeds, I can only really think of when the time when he came on at Catalan, where he has played well. But what did you think of him yesterday, Cameron?
The irony with him is actually I thought he played quite well against Warrington in round 1. I remember going, he was one positive against Warrington, and it just seems to have gone downhill from him from there. I think confidence is maybe a bit of a problem for him, especially after that whole KR game. I think that's it's difficult to come back from a performance like that. I think he was like a 6 out of 10 yesterday. He did hit the sort of spectrum of his job well, insofar as he did carry the ball well. I thought he chased some kicks well. I thought that there was one in the second half where he chased it, basically forced Bevan French into a knock on, and it should have been Leeds' ball, and it ended up being a Wigan ball, which I was quite surprised at. Obviously, there was that one error. He should catch it, but also I don't think the pass is the best from Jared, because it's up here. It's always difficult catching that. But it's one of them where you mentioned his stats. Those stats scream to me Rowan Smith winger, because I think this is why I don't think he trusts Tyndall that much, is because I think he wants big, powerful wingers who are going to make lots of meters in those early carries and can bust tackles. So his stats point the other reason why I think Rowan's signed him, but you maybe need a little bit more from him. Certainly in a game like yesterday where you are missing Ash Handley, you're missing Blake Austin, so you kind of need your wingers to be like a real, a strike weapon. And neither really seemed to be that yesterday. And then with Nene playing at centre, which I think, like I've already alluded to, I feel like sapped him of his usual attacking potential. It just ended up just being Harry Newman, which we've already talked about, is the only player who looked like making a break. So
yeah. Okay, let's go to the second half then, because I think for any side that makes a comeback, scoring the last try in the first half and then scoring after 33 seconds is almost a perfect scenario for that team, but it's a dark storm for the opposing team. I was incredibly disappointed for us to be, conceding a try after 33 seconds in the second half. It looks like Dono got caught out of position and Gannon got caught out of position with that try. Did you fear the worst from that point, Sam, when that try was scored after 33 seconds?
I didn't fear the worst. I just felt like we just hadn't woken up yet in the second half, because with it being Leeds in a second half, I was kind of expecting maybe we're just going to put in a full 80-minute performance here. I was, I was actually getting quite excited about that, but then that happened, and at the time I thought it's just one of them. They've caught us off guard early in the half, but we've got time. We're still ahead, and we've got time to recover this. And I was so sure we were going to score points in that second half as well. So I was just thinking, shake that off. And I actually said to my mate at the time, with classic Sunday League football shout, you've just got to start it's 0-0. You've just got to start again. You've just got to pretend this is the start of the second half now and forget that's happened. But yeah, didn't quite go as I'd hoped.
Cameron, did you fear the worst after 33 seconds?
A concern of mine would be the fact that this is not the first time that we started the second half and we've not been switched on. My mind journeys back to Hull KR.
Or any half.
Yeah, that try basically lost us the game at Craven Park when we conceded that was unforgivable. And this was a sort of a similar case. I don't think we actually. We've talked about the first half. I thought we played relatively well in the first half, but we have talked about how Harry got lucky, and you mentioned it earlier, Reece, that we have got lucky with some forward passes. I thought we just looked incredibly loose defensively. in our own half, which is odd because I actually thought we were defending quite well and higher intensity than we usually do up the field. Usually it's the other way around. We're usually quite passive, and then we look quite solid defend. Well, the aim is to be solid defending in your own half. In the first half, I saw glimpses of we look quite flimsy when we're defending in our own half and we could leak points. And the start of the second half showed me that we could continue to leak points. But this is where I talked about is we needed to keep playing the game our way and in their half, and we just let them bully us. And that, if we'd have done that, we'd have still won the game. But in the end, we've just let them creep up, pin us in that corner, and we just always look like leaking tries.
I do think that I felt we lost control in that second half. We were certainly not in control of that game. We were playing Wigan's rugby at that point, and Harry Smith took control of the game. I think it was Harry Smith that made the pass to Nsembe or Nsemba, however you want to say his name. He made a massive impact for Wigan, I thought. Sounds like another prop on the young forward on the conveyor belt at Wigan. He was probably the player I was most jealous of for Wigan. I don't know what you guys thought of him. Sam, what were your thoughts on that Nsembe kid?
Yeah, he looked really good. My main thought during the game was they've got this guy who's massive and he's clearly a big talent. And if they're adding Sam Walters to that and you know what people are saying he could become, that should
be highly illegal to have two props at 6'7" on the pitch at one time. Like that is just not right. But my thought went to exactly that during the game. I thought, God, this kid looks good. And he's sort of similar build to Walters. Like, what's that going to be for them if they've got these two, and the impact that they can both make. I think it was Nene that got caught out of position for that try as well. Again, so going back to what you were saying, Cameron, about a bit of loose defending again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what I mean as well. I mean, I know a lot of people questioned when we signed Nene, is he good enough defensively? And I've defended him most of the season, but to be fair, most of the season he's been on the wing. I always think that the hardest position on a rugby field to defend is centre, because it's not like a winger where you're looking all in. You're one in from the wing, so you've got to have like this. You've got to have full vision because you've got to keep an eye on what's going on. But then it's easy to get sucked in and drawn out. And he did get caught out a few times. But overall, our edge defence was as flimsy as I've seen it for a while. I expect a little bit better.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I don't want to go through the Newman incident again. Anything else that we should be picking up on? Any players? Anything like that?
I think I'd like to pick up on something you've said quite recently, Reece, which was about the losing control of the second half. And you are right that we were playing Wigan's game in the second half. But what annoys me most is there were times where Wigan offered us back control on a silver platter and we didn't take it. There was a couple of short kickoffs which actually worked. They were making errors in their own half, and just show a bit more composure, and also let's show a bit more endeavour when we're attacking in their 20 metres. I think in the second half, we just looked. I mean, obviously we're quite an unstructured side anyway, and that can be brilliant to watch. But we just looked devoid of ideas in the second half when we were attacking in their 20, because we did have chances well before Harry's moment. We had spells down there, but we just never looked like scoring.
No, I do think we don't look dangerous in the 20 metres zone. I really don't feel that when other teams are in our 20, I'm thinking shit most of the time. I'm panicking because I can see the dummy runs, I can see the structure of the attack coming. But when we get the ball, I can't see what we're about to do, and I just don't get excited by it because I can't see where the score's going to come from. And the scores tend to be coming from those breaks 50, 60 metres away from players like Newman or that making those bits of individual brilliance. I'm going to go straight to man of the match now. Who was your man of the match, Sam?
I'd probably give it Alroyd. I thought it was really good. Just that, especially the first half and that try, just the determination for that try. I think he wins it for that alone.
Cameron?
Alroyd's a shout. I'll go with Cam Smith, though. He did so many long minutes, so much so that he had to go off with cramp at the end. He did look our most dangerous player for me.
So as founder of the society, I clearly should be saying Cameron, but I actually think Tom Holroyd was my man of the match. So Lot Pod man of the match goes to Tom Holroyd for the Wigan loss. Just because I always forget to include the score, we lost 14 points to 18. Probably should have been more, actually, because Harry Smith kept missing those kicks, and that's probably, again, what kept us in the game. So, again, you could argue that it's not entirely Newman's fault for the incident. But, yeah, 14-18 was the result. We had some interesting rugby league news this week in the French, I can't remember if it's the government or whoever, have pulled out of hosting the 2025 Rugby League World Cup. Sam, what was your thoughts on that when you saw that news?
I've got to be honest, I've not read that much about it because it's just so unsurprising, isn't it? It's just typical rugby league for something like that to happen. So I saw the news and didn't really think about it again. I thought, yep, that's about right, and then just moved on. So what happens with it happens, but yeah, it's a shame because it would have been good to have it somewhere different, but yeah, it's not going to be, is it?
Yeah, I thought France was a really good opportunity. Cameron, what was your reaction to when you saw the news?
Just not surprised. I mean, it has been muted for
what a sad state of affair. Like, it's quite a big story, but none of us are surprised that it happened.
Well, that's just
it's just rugby league, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just international rugby league. I mean, how many times we've been burnt, certainly recently, with these kind of things. 2020, we're supposed to have an Ashes. I mean, yeah, that year was the year where the pandemic was sort of at its height. So you can kind of understand why we don't play Australia. But I will say this. England football still played their games in 20. They were playing Nations League. I'm pretty sure at the end of the 2020 season. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, they did. And then obviously the World Cup got pushed back. So maybe it's a good thing because we're not going to have. We might have 4 years between the World Cups now if this one gets pushed back as well. But it's just like no one. Until the NRL and Australia really get their fingers in the international game, and I'm not just talking about Australia playing New Zealand, Samoa, and Tonga, but just the wider game. The international game is just not going to have the ability to really take the steps forward that we need because, as much as I love Super League and obviously the English game, it's like if England football didn't carry the sport forward, the football forward. Long ago. This is what Australia needs to do now. They are like the Premier League of rugby league. So just take the game elsewhere. Really drive. That's how you build a sporting legacy. Is take it beyond what it is now. Grow it, not just in your own country, but beyond that. And that's what I'd call for Australia to do.
So obviously, the question that follows this is where does it go if it does happen in 2025 or the year later? Obviously, the surprise name of the bunch was Qatar. Jenny's put in the comments saying that can't wait to see matches in Qatar in empty stadiums in a country with zero interest in the sport. We should not be going to Qatar at all, in my opinion. We had probably one of the most inclusive sporting tournaments that's ever happened last year. And to take it to somewhere like Qatar is to undo all that work that you've done. A place that has an appalling human rights record, doesn't respect women, and therefore they shouldn't be given that opportunity for my liking. I know there's a lot of money for it, but I don't give a crap, quite frankly. Qatar is certainly off the table for me. I don't know if you two agree with that.
Hit the nail on the head. Couldn't say it any better.
Sound?
The only thing I would say about Qatar is if you want to help, if you want to try and change their opinions, maybe you could try to change their opinions by going and doing the tournament there and trying to sort of, maybe you need to rethink this and rethink that. But I will. Rugby league's probably not bigger. That's more football's job. Like football needed to do more with that.
I just don't think you get people there anyway because, I don't know how many Australians and New Zealanders came over here.
Exactly. This is what I mean. Football needed to do more, in my opinion. Football needed to push the human rights thing more in the 2020 FIFA World Cup. I don't really think rugby league has the clout to do that, so it's probably right not to go there. But I was just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, fair enough. You can do that, but you're wrong. Paul Ramsden's put that Spain are trying to build up a bit of rugby league, so maybe something like that would be good. Obviously, with the football stadiums, I don't really want to see it go to Australia because it just feels like we're just doing the same thing. I've seen New Zealand mentioned, and I actually would quite like New Zealand, because if it was just New Zealand, they've hosted the Rugby League Union World Cup in 2011. I think they hosted the Under-17 Football World Cup, or at least some form of age grade Women's World Cup as well. They've got great stadiums. They've got Eden Park, Mount Smart. They've got a stadium in Wellington, a really cool stadium in Dunedin, and loads of other small stadiums. It's got a massive Pacific Islands nation. I want more scenes like that Tonga semi-final at Mount Smart, where it was a sea of red. I want that. That is a picture you can sell for International Rugby League in terms of promoting it. So I think there's so many positives to New Zealand. Plus, it'd be 10 years since I went to New Zealand, so it gives me an excuse to go back. Sam, have you got a preferred option of where it goes?
Probably New Zealand as well. I think we've got to be realistic that now France have pulled out and it's not that far away. It's going to be based somewhere where rugby league already is. There's a strong rugby league background, I suppose. But as you say, Australia would be the same old. Let's not do that. Let's try be a little bit creative with it. Do New Zealand or Tonga, Samoa. Take it somewhere different, and let's give people something a little bit different to watch. But we still know we're going to get crowds, and it's going to feel like a proper celebration of rugby league.
I think it's a good opportunity for New Zealand as well to test if there's a market for a second New Zealand team in the NRL. And I think Christchurch or Wellington has been mentioned a couple of times as a potential expansion point. And it also means that New Zealand Warriors will go back to the Auckland Warriors, which I just prefer. But I think it gives the game a bit of a chance as well for that to grow. Cameron, have you got a preference of where you want the World Cup to go in 2025?
I did like Andrew Voss's idea of doing sort of like a Euros 2020 thing where, how that was. I mean, the finals at Wembley, but you had like stadiums all across Europe. He suggested something similar where the tournament could be, based mostly in the UK, but you have games in France, so France still get a little bit of involvement. Spain and other countries where you're trying to sell the game, but I think ultimately the realistic shout is probably New Zealand for the reasons that you guys have already clearly laid out. I would like to see like the Pacific Islands involved in some in a real capacity of maybe co-hosting it and having some games actually like in Tonga and things if that's possible. Yeah. But I don't know how logistically speaking that if that is feasible, but that would be nice.
And then finally turning to our next game, which is St. Helens at home. They will be coming after us because of what happened in round 3. It's Friday night lights, so it means I won't have a hangover the next day. What are your guys' predictions so far for that Saints game? Obviously, they're going to be without the leading grub in Super League, which is Morgan Knowles. For those of you who haven't seen, Matty Lees, he's going to be out, but obviously Morgan Knowles received a red card the other day. So what changes to the side with you, mate? Because it feels like Austin might not be available by the sound of things. Obviously, we need to see Hanley if he can come back from his illness. Obviously, Jack might be out of the HIA protocols, but I think they're probably going to look after him. So what changes to the lineup do you think we'll see, Sam? And I suppose the question is, what do you want to see?
Well, if Hanley's ready to come back, he obviously comes straight back in. But I'd probably put him at fullback and then put Myler into the halves.
Who's your wings in that scenario? Is it Crab 1 and Crab 2?
Push Nene out of the way.
Yeah. Well, no, McDonald's going out to the wing, and then purely because I'm just not his biggest fan, I'm dropping Alforts and keeping Tyndall.
Cameron, what would you be doing for the lineup?
Basically same as Sam. I think for me it's a bit close between Alforts and Tyndall. I'm not particularly fussed which way we go in that scenario. If I put my Rowan Smith hat on, I think because Alforts is more senior and has been more involved. And let's not forget Tyndall might not necessarily be here at the end of the year because I know the club wants to keep him, but he's not. I don't think he's signed a new deal yet. So yeah, I do feel like he'll lean towards Alforts. It's a shame about Jack because this could be a really good period for him. But obviously, he's doing his exams, which Rowan mentioned this week, and you can kind of understand protected him.
You forget that you realise how young these players are, aren't they? When Morgan Gaddington got his A levels last year, and I went, shit, he's 18. Like you just forget.
So weird. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with James Bentley, because he should be back from his head injury. So I would. Part of me feels like we'll see Corey Johnson drop back out and go to more of a Wigan, a bench against Wigan away, where you sort of have a ball playing back row, whether it be Bentley, who can obviously come on as a 9, or if it's Morgan Gannon, who can come on as a 6 on the bench and really go with size rather than having a real proper ball player like Corey Johnson involved. One player who I don't think we'll see involved very much for the rest of the season, though, is Sam Walters. I think if Sam Walters was staying, I feel like our lineup against Wigan on Saturday could have been quite different. Maybe Nenny does play on the wing, and everyone sort of pushes out one because Walters is playing. But it's probably, from Leeds' perspective, there's no point unless you have to play him in playing him, because you're just developing a player then for Wigan.
Do you give Luke Cooley a go? Because there's a scenario where if you play Luke Cooley, Hanley stays on the wing, you've got Nene on the wing, so you've got neither Crab 1 or Crab 2 on the wings. You can move Reece Martin into centre with Newman, and then for me, you've got Gannon, McDonald, our future second row partnership. In fact, that pack of Oledsky, O'Connor, Holroyd, McDonald, Gannon, Smith will probably be our pack, all homegrown English players, and mostly homegrown Leeds players, for the next 5, 6, 7 years, hopefully. So, I'd like to see Gannon and McDonald play together. I'd probably put Bentley back on the bench if he was free, but if Hooley's available, do you think that's an option we should be looking at, Sam?
No, not because of him. Not because of him, by the way. It's because his debut, he was thrown into that OKR game and given a really tough time, and I think it's been wise to just remove him from that for a little bit, and get some game time at Batley. But I think to throw him back in against St Helens is equally as harsh, to be honest.
When do we play Wakefield next?
Yeah, no, do it then. Absolutely do it then. Who cares? It's Wakefield, isn't it? But yeah, not this week. Not this week. I've said that now. Wakefield are going to beat us, aren't they?
I saw Rob Conlon, the guy that's on the square ball, who's hopefully actually going to come on this pod at some point. He said that he's never been more convinced that Leeds will lose to Wakefield this year.
Yeah, I've seen the tweet that he put about that, and it just reminded me of 2014 when we lost to London, only team to lose to. Yeah. So yeah, it screams that. But yeah, so Luke, is Hooley an option for you, Cameron? Or do you agree with Sam?
I agree with Sam, and I want to make a wider point about the Challenge Cup. Actually, this is why the Challenge Cup you need to introduce Super League clubs earlier, because cup games used to be such a good opportunity to play your younger players and give them a taste. If you got a championship side, you can give your younger players a taste of first team action, and if you signed to someone from the championship, it's also that opportunity to sort of bring them in a game where you're almost certainly going to win, and you can sort of test him out with the structures and things and slowly build up to a proper full-on Super League clash. And I mean, maybe it's because I'm sick and tired of drawing a big club, or at least a Super League club, in the opening round and getting dumped out, because that's been the case since the last time we won it. We've gone out first hurdle every single season, which is kind of winding me up. But the cup's just gone up. It starts and then finishes it all like that, pretty much, doesn't it? 4 games and you've won a trophy.
Probably the only time I've been jealous of St Helens this season was when they got the Halifax away draw. And I did see something, I think it was Johnny Liu, who is a Saints fan, saying that should be a bit like the Spanish Cup, where the larger team is away. So you do the draw, but if the team's in the league below, they automatically get the home game. And bringing those teams in earlier, I'd love to have an away day at Whitehaven or somewhere like that.
I want to go to York.
York.
Away, but it's a nice little stadium, that, and being able to watch Leeds there would be great.
Yeah, so I think I do agree, and there does feel a bit of the magic of the Challenge Cup isn't there anymore. Has Magic Weekend replaced that massive day out that the Challenge Cup final was? I heard the Lose 4 guys were talking about that the other week, and obviously shown by the attendance on Saturday. Now, I don't know if the attendance got announced, actually. I don't remember.
It hasn't been announced.
It can't have been more than 8, 9, I don't think. So yeah, and obviously then
that's shocking.
Yeah, and then obviously then doesn't happen with the magic of the Challenge Cup is that Wigan and Warrington get drawn together again for what must be like the 7th time in a row. And
I think it is something like 7 times in 9 years.
It's something stupid like that. So yeah. So I
like
agree with you, Cameron.
Today as well. Like that's 5 times since 2015. Those 2 have been drawn.
Yeah. So yeah, so that I do think there's a bit more magic. I'd love to come in a bit earlier. I want an away day at Whitehaven or something daft like that because it's a great day out, and obviously it's revenue for that club. You know, Halifax sold out their hospitality for the first time this year as a result of that. So I think that's a really, really important, good point. What's the prediction then for Saints on Friday, Sam? What do you think the score will be?
I actually think it's going to be quite close. 20. I'll go 26-18 Leeds, and I don't normally go for Leeds. I'm usually quite negative, but I'm actually going to back us next week.
Before I ask Cameron again, is Johnny Lomax? Did he pass his HIA?
Yeah, I believe he did.
He did. So he's playing. Okay.
Yeah.
So bearing that in mind, then Cameron, what's your prediction for Friday?
I'm still going Leeds to win because that's just Leeds in a nutshell this season. Because you lose to teams that you should beat. You beat the top teams, and we've beaten all the top 4 last year, and also we sort of win one, lose one. So I think we beat Saints, and it'll kill me inside to know that we did the double over the year after we lost the grand final to them, because I would absolutely trade one of those wins and change it to being at Old Trafford last year. But it's just they're being Leeds all over, and I still maintain that because of the weird way that we play rugby league, we are the top team's kryptonite. They all want to play this sort of boring brand of rugby where it's all physical, and then you kick it to a corner and you trap them in a corner, and you build pressure slowly. And I feel like Leeds are the antithesis of that, and they are built to annoy these teams and cause them problems. Sometimes it won't work because it's all or nothing plays all the bloody time. But I feel like this in my gut, I just feel like this is the one that's going to come off.
In the host tradition, I'm going to say Leeds by 33, and Liam Tyndall will get a hat trick somehow. Cameron, Sam, thanks very much for coming on this evening, and thanks for your time. Everyone, thank you for the comments and taking part, and obviously joining us whilst live streaming. We do live stream this match review panel each week, normally on a Sunday around 7 or 8 o'clock. So please feel free to join us in the future. Last thing I'd like to remind everyone is that the auction, or the raffle, for the Magic Weekend shirt is live on my Twitter, which is the Owl and Fleece. It is £2.50 a ticket. You can enter as many times as you want. There are 100 slots, which means we'll raise £250 for charity. Half of it goes to Rob Burrows Senator of MOD, and the other half goes to the M&D Foundation. So any questions about that, pop me a message or take part. It is pinned on my profile to see that. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next week to review the Saints game.